Splendid Abodes, the official podcast of Toronto Thelema. Exploring, if you will, practical philosophy, from the science and the workings of the mind to spirituality, esotericism, and magic.
Stooping down, dipping my wings, I came into the darkly splendid abodes. When tales tap into the subconscious, their themes can transcend the arbitrary boundaries set by the rational mind. Michael and I will delve into the lore of Twin Peaks and see if we can read a Thelemic fable into the film Fire Walk With Me and the first season and a half of the television series as we inaugurate our spin-off series, Spinning Stories.
Alright, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law, love under will, allegedly.
Well, yes, and we are starting a new series here, so we decided to break this off. We were talking about, in our previous season of Deep Dips, the idea of doing episodes where we talked about like a particular film or TV show or whatnot that we could kind of put a Thelemic spin on.
Yeah, I was sort of saying to you that it was maybe a little bit of an apologetic project because in many cases, these readings that we're trying to bring to the subject won't be the truth. You know, It won't be what the creator had.
It's not like
mind.
behind the scenes of the director's true vision or something like that.
But I'm going to push back on myself a little bit here, especially. With
Good, we can cover mental health in the occult as well.
Yeah, you wanted to return to the theme of madness, so bagow.
Slide.
How broad do I want to get here? So I think usually artists study their art, and they work really hard to learn things about the medium, and then within that medium about genre, and then within that genre about storytelling conventions, and they get more and more refined and really get good at presenting a kind of personal truth, but filtered through the lens of this of their particular art that they've spent a lifetime studying.
And now AI can do it.
And now AI can do it, which is why so many of the best films are self-reflexive films about filmmaking or about writing, because when the artist gets to the deepest level of self-reflection, they've spent like their whole lives just practicing their craft. And so that self-reflection becomes incestuous and they end up writing about their process of writing. Whereas I think there's a few special artists who have also done significant introspective work and learned things about themselves as human beings rather than themselves qua whatever art they make. And so their deepest work becomes not a meta-commentary on the work itself, but something that shows fundamental truths about identity, about psychology, and perhaps about the spirit world, right? So even if a person might not be a Thelemite, if they're this kind of artist that has had some deep introspective experience, then the archetypes that begin to bubble up in their most kind of precious works, their most kind of honest works, are going to be symbols that we can approach from. If there's any truth in Thelema, then they're going to be similar symbols that we can approach from a Thelemic perspective and have some idea of what's actually going on beneath the surface of the work that is going to have a truth to it. And our particular Thelemic spin might not be the truth, but are the interpretive tools about, what spirits are and what humanity is and this sort of thing approaching it from a spiritual angle rather than from a film criticism angle or something like that, it is going to tell us something true about the work, I hope.
Mm-hmm. And it's also nice because it gives us the ability to put a spin on the story in such a way that we create a Thelemic fable out of it.
Yeah. And I also think with Twin Peaks specifically, there's so much fan community cross chatter about Twin Peaks. It's sort of been beaten to death a little bit in this format. There's hundreds of podcasts about it, but very often people will say, "Hey, I know David Lynch was really into numerology." And I haven't bothered to look up what any of these numbers mean. This is sort of beyond my willingness to invest. And you and I are people that sometimes know what numbers mean. I don't know about numerology, whether the symbol set will be similar enough to Kabbalah that we can get what Lynch intended out of some of these numbers. But we can get something out of some of these numbers. And so I actually thought that might be a way in which we could legitimately add something new to the conversation.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun because it's just taking the art and using it as a means, a sort of springboard with which to play with Thelemic ideas as well and explore them in different ways. We do also have, as a special feature, we have a guest on the line, beaming in live via satellite. We have our good friend, Edward Mason, 93.
Nice to see you, Edward.
93 indeed. How is thy good self and any other selves you've brought with you today?
Very well. Yeah, how are things on your end?
Good. Okay, can we get into this thing?
Okay, so we assigned ourselves Fire Walk With Me and the pilot and episodes 1 through 7 of Twin Peaks to watch for this one. And, I have some uncomfortably defined ideas about all this material. I've thought about it entirely too much. Did you enjoy this rewatch? I don't know how many times you've seen this program, and did any sort of Thelemic symbols jump out at you this time? Anything that you noticed from this kind of perspective I'm imposing on you that you want to talk about?
Well, definitely. I saw Fire Walk With Me back in the late winter, I think. We showed it for this brief series of films we were hosting for Toronto Thelema. And I missed the first half of it. It was kind of like, in hosting the thing, I had complicated things, so I wasn't able to just sort of relax and sit down and watch it. But watching it again recently on my own, it's like the more I see that movie, the more I like it. And it wasn't, I think the first time I saw it was before I had seen the series, so it made no sense whatsoever.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was a terrible way to watch it. But so the more I'm watching it, the more I'm getting out of it. But it's also, like thinking of it with that Thelemic perspective. Spoilers, by the way. I don't know if there's any point in listening to this if you haven't seen the stuff, because even if we try to spoil it, it probably won't really work. It'll just be too convoluted.
Yeah, as far as I know, Darren has not yet seen Twin Peaks: The Return, and so I promise not to blow too much of that for you because I'd like you to see it raw.
Yeah.
And even though we haven't assigned ourselves anything from season 2, we may discuss things from season 2 because we've both seen it. So yeah, spoilers all the way to the climax of the original series.
Yeah, so, and I don't know if that includes halfway through however many episodes into the second season that there's a big reveal as well.
Yeah. So so if you don't know who killed Laura Palmer, don't listen.
Yeah. So, I guess that's the other thing is like, you can't watch Fire Walk With Me without, knowing who killed Laura Palmer.
That's right.
Returning to the question at hand, I've loved Disney ever since I was a child, and my favorite Disney movie was probably Pocahontas. I think that was it was the Thelema thing. It was like the angel thing that stuck out to me in Fire Walk With Me.
Oh yeah, no, that's crazy important. We talked a little bit a few times about how to make saints And in Thelema, we have curriculum all the way up to the crossing of the abyss, right? There's some structure for, I don't know how detailed the curriculum is, but the AA system has a way for a person to approach the abyss. And that's great. But traditionally, the formula of saint making was the formula of martyrdom, right? Like, every saint needs 3 miracles, and if you happen to have walked on water or done the loaves and fishes, then that's great for you. But very, very often, the 3 miracles are your own conversion. Like, if you have a coming to Jesus moment, that can be a miracle. Your attempt to convert someone else, if maybe you turned the prince to Christianity or something like that. So that's your second miracle. And then your third miracle can be your martyrdom. And so the
it's funny when you breaking it down like this. It just sounds like the most ridiculous thing to me.
Sure, we can debate that. But so the traditional pathway to sainthood
It is basically like creating a parasitic. Anyway,
it includes being tortured to death.
Yeah,
and so if we want to see. What I'm going to suggest is that the whole first series, from the pilot through to the season 2 finale, is sort of Dale Cooper's HGA operation. Then the follow-up to that, which is Fire Walk With Me, is going to be about crossing the abyss. And so Laura's kind of horror story, and it is fucking horrible, but that it's her achieving sainthood by standing up to the Bob entity and not letting herself get, seduced by his kind of horror, and then enduring the torture and murder as a consequence of that decision to preserve her own identity, her own self. And what she says about it to Donna, if you were falling through space, do you think you'd slow down eventually, or do you think you'd go faster and faster? She says, not only would you go faster and faster, but the angels couldn't help you because they've all gone away. And that always makes me think of Crowley talking about how the babe of the abyss has to, give up everything in his life, including his holy guardian angel, and cross the abyss alone.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the climax of the film, Laura meets her angel again on the other side, and that relationship is changed, partly because Laura is now bodiless and trapped in the Red Room, but she is reunited with her angel on the other side of the abyss crossing. And I guess that, and I hadn't thought about this before, but I guess that sort of makes Bob the demon C, the demon of dispersion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That sort of interferes with her, crossing, and she tries to distract her with what does Mike say? Bob likes something, and the pleasures, but that's sort of the illusion of Maya, right? He enjoys, this list of thing and the pleasures. He enjoys existing, but also what he exists in is pain and sorrow, this Garmonbosia, right? So he's seductive and dangerous, and Laura endures and crosses the abyss and gets reunited with her angel. So yeah, I noticed those angels too, and I thought they were worth it. What were you thinking about when you noticed that?
Well, it was just the really powerful example of she's looking at that painting and the angel disappears from it, and then later on, like she's on the train and with the other girl, and they're being murdered, and the other girl has her angel appear to her and basically help her to escape.
Yeah, the angel saves Ronette Pulaski, but can't save Laura.
Yeah, no angel appears for Laura, so she is on her own. So that's a really powerful, jarring kind of lonely feeling that manages to generate. And then at the end, we have that final appearance of the angel, as you mentioned, which when I walked into the place to catch that portion. It did strike me in that deep way, but at the same time, it's like it's I could totally see how looking at things like that in David Lynch sometimes, when you just walk in on them, it's like it looks like a student film. You know, it has that hokiness to
There's
it.
a way in which his work is often very hackneyed, right? I mean, some things are so gorgeous, and then some things are just spur of the moment, and what can we do, and
Put a white dress on her. Hang her from the ceiling.
It's okay if we see the strings.
No, I want to see the strings.
The strings are a part of it. You don't understand.
That's the point.
Both of our David Lynch impressions are just Gordon Cole impressions.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, admittedly, it's just David Lynch plus a screaming. But I'm not sure he actually is always screaming like that.
Yeah, I feel like he was just self-conscious of his acting abilities and was like, you know what? If I have to wear a hearing aid that's not working, that would give me the excuse to be over the top.
Did you notice the license plate on the Caravan before Chet Desmond disappears?
Oh, you'll have to remind me. I did, but I don't remember what was on it offhand.
V220.
Okay. Yeah.
Depending on
Verse 220.
Depending on how your TV cuts it off. In the extra wide version, I think it's 2001. Or sorry, 2020, 2201.
Okay.
But the V, I always think the number 5 for, you know, the elements and the hierophant and whatever, and then 220, the Book of the Law. I don't know why we see that just before he disappears. But in a way that's sort of his, you know, crossing into mystery moment as well, too, right? So foreshadowing.
This is the Chris Isaac character?
The Chris Isaac character, yeah.
Yeah, because that made me think of, as you mentioned it, verse 220 would be the final verse of the Book of the Law. And the book is sealed under the word, in the word, abrahadabra.
Oh, right. So like, it is done. Yeah. I mean, this part of the movie's over.
Accomplished. Yeah.
And Chet's gone on to
bigger and better
deeper
things.
mysteries.
Yeah. And there was that ring. Do you have any thoughts on the way in which the ring plays into it? The green ring with that symbol on it.
Well, so after Laura disappears, or dies rather, we see Bob kind of placing the heart necklace on that big pile of dust, and then I think in the pilot, it's it's a pile of dirt about 1.5 feet in diameter. So that's 18 inches, which is 1 cubit, which also reduces to 9. And so we're thinking about Yesod, but it's also a little pile of dust in the city of the pyramids.
Yeah.
And so the both the green ring and the sort of heart necklace and all, you know, other things around Laura's death and there's all these little piles of dust in the city of the pyramids.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's like a half of the heart, and the other half is with what's his name? James.
Yeah.
And that makes me think of that whole idea of like a star is cast out into one of the Sephiroth.
Oh, I see. Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. And then Jacoby ends up with it. Yeah, what do you think about the green ring?
That one's a little less obvious, I guess, but I'm not sure if there's a correlation to like a Thelemic parable when it comes to that green ring.
Yeah, I must confess the Thelemic angle doesn't help me with the green ring. That seems like
just a riff
specifically
off
Twin Peaks lore. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it seems to pop up as like he's saying, "Don't take the ring, don't take the ring," and that sort of thing. Maybe. I mean, it's green. That could be Netzach and desire. And if you don't have the desire focused on the higher, then it can just lead you further into the darkness and whatnot. Maybe you could make a reading like that out of it.
So much in Fire Walk with Me is either green or red, which are Netzach and the flashing color of Netzach.
Alluding to Gevurah,
alluding
really.
to an elemental fire as well, right? Sephirotic fire, I should say. And so the film is called Fire Walk with Me. But I also, when I watch the movie, I think about Crowley's stage play based on Wagner's Tannhäuser. And I haven't seen the opera, but in the stage play, the Tannhäuser, who's sort of like an Arthurian knight, is trapped someplace called the Venusberg. And in this sort of cave, he's being seduced by this Venusian spirit, who is keeping him happy, keeping him in pleasure, lots of sex, lots of drugs, but also keeping him drugged. So like he can't think clearly about what his mission is, about what the path of his life would be, about, he can't consent to this. He may be kept in sort of a pleasant condition, but he can't think rationally about it. And, even the most comfortable prison is still a prison, let's say. And so Venus is keeping him high, keeping him oversexed, keeping him overfed. And then over the course of the first two acts of the play, these sort of serpent symbols start to creep in. And the question becomes, well, where is he really? Is this Venus or is this Lilith? And so it ends up being that he's actually been seduced by a vampire, and the woman is Lilith, and he ends up having to escape. So after the first two acts, he escapes and then has to tell this story to all the people in the community that he walks by on the way home. But this relation, this Netzach and its flashing color, and the sort of zealous love of God, this passionate love that is Netzach, which can also sometimes be sexual love, but then has this flashing idea of Lilith, who's like, I know you did an episode on Lilith recently where it was talking about the alphabet of Rabbi Ben Salman, where there's this bedtime story about Adam's first wife, which I think is important in the Twin Peaks narrative. But also there's an older idea of these called like Lilot spirits, which are just like succubi. They're vampire demons that meet young men in dreams and then cause nocturnal emissions. And the name Lilith is one of the oldest names in the whole Bible. Like it's this idea of these sort of cradle demons that both cause nocturnal emissions, like wet dreams, and then also like crib death. This is very, very old, and these things are called Lilot, and are sometimes shown with owl's feet and owl's wings, by the way. And
that's what Pazuzu's actually, the old Sumerian version of this, like we had Pazuzu is actually supposed to be the protector against these things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that got misrepresented by The Exorcist and whatnot. Or maybe, The Exorcist 2, I think, is the big...
So I think that's really an important symbol in Fire Walk with Me, and sort of talks about the relationship between Bob and Laura, which if you read like the Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, sometimes Bob's just seems to be like her abusive boyfriend, her like abusive older boyfriend. And there's like a semi-consensual aspect to the relationship where Laura will like go and meet him in the woods and they'll have fun kind of being alone together and doing like dangerous things. Like Laura has this idea that like it's cool to do dangerous things and to be with a dangerous person.
Yeah, and that's
but
why
then she discovers that he actually is dangerous.
Yeah.
That's bad
It's not
news.
like James where all he actually does is cry all the time.
Yeah, James looks dangerous, but then he's just a sad sack. But so there's something to this whole these reds and greens and the idea of this Venusian energy. Laura at some point says in the series says to Dr. Jacoby on one of those tapes like why is it so easy for me to make men like me? I don't even have to try very hard. Like it just like maybe if it were harder, my life would be easier.
And yeah, it's like you were mentioning to me that her dress is always sort of in the movie in these earthy colors, but it seems like green is very prevalent, or black.
She dresses in green, brown, and sort of orange or yellow.
So it's the olive, citrine, and russet.
Yeah, and they're muted versions. So it's
Yeah.
olive, citrine, russet, and black. All of her clothes are olive, citrine, and russet up until about halfway through the movie when she discovers that Bob and Leland might be the same person, and then her color palette diversifies, which could be an interesting thing to think about. I haven't done it much, but then olive, citrine, and russet, and then all of her underwear is black. So yeah, they're Malkuth, and another sort of way Lilith seems to bleed into the story is that Lilith is the Qliphoth of Malkuth, if you look at the reverse side of the Tree of Life. So Lara is being identified with this sort of like earthy archetype, but also with, I think Lilith as well.
Yeah, that episode on Lilith, there was also, we were looking at some appearances in the holy books and whatnot of Lilith, and one of which was the chapter 3 of Liber 65, and Annie had some interesting suggestions as to how it's not necessarily demonizing her, but it's sort of like disentangling her from the sort of base level or negative connotations, so that initially it's like, but then I remembered, and it starts talking to Lilith and saying, your scent was of musk mingled with ambergris, and it sort of has like the musk represents the animal soul kind of level of things, or the animal nature, and ambergris is the deity, the very high kind of nature. And so like and it seemed like the more of this as it goes along, it starts to realize, oh, there's this putrefaction, there's these negative base animal level things, the blind worm of slime, these kinds of images and things, but they're maybe not necessarily specific to Lilith per se, but the manifestations in this very base Malkuth, like as it gets sunk down into Malkuth. And then on calling for the Holy Guardian Angel, the Holy Guardian Angel alone couldn't do anything, because as Crowley's commentary says, it's sort of like not having a separate lever. So he also calls on the elephant god, the Lord of
Ganesha.
Yeah, so it's basically the two of them together are able to help extract the aspirant, and then the serpent woman is refigured as the snake of emerald that encircles the universe.
It's all very good. The thing that strikes me about the ambergris and the musk is, and you were sort of saying musk is sort of stinky and basic, and to do with sort of raw animal instincts, and then ambergris is the rarefied, holy, kind of sacred smell, and I, in a way, I agree with that. Ambergris is very, very rare, and so very, very expensive, and seen as something fine, but also it's whale vomit.
Yeah,
and whereas musk, even though usually we encounter it as something, stinking in the wild, you can take a musk and make a nice perfume out of it. And it's a sexual attractant. Like it's about this sort of act that becomes sacred in Thelema. So there's a wheel of these two forces chasing each other around the spectrum of disgusting to incredibly precious and valuable, whereas in one way, one thing is vomit and the other thing is a rarefied sexual attractant. But in another way, that thing that was once vomit is now an incredibly precious, rare, beautiful, highly sought after commodity, and the other thing is just like my cat sprayed on the couch again. So there's both in that in that symbol. Which
and
is
I guess that's
cool.
that's kind of like similar to what we're seeing here, where it's if we're thinking of it as Netzach, kind of to some extent, it's sort of like when it gets drawn down into Malkuth, it's like the desires become very animalistic and very base and end up having these kinds of manifestations that we might sort of associate with the blind worm of slime and whatnot. But then with the whole Golden Dawn system, the idea is that you do the work of the lower grades to essentially equilibrate your elemental nature. And by the time you get to Netzach and deal with that, the next step is to keep, like Netzach, you want to keep your adoration towards Tifereth, towards the higher, so that you're working your way up rather than sort of sinking down with your so-called base desires.
Yeah. Well, that's weird too, right? Because if we're saying that Laura is crossing the abyss and Bob is the demon sea, at least in this, I think there's something else going on in the larger narrative, but in Fire Walk With Me, let's say that's what it is.
Yeah.
Even Laura as the aspirant, even though all of her symbols are about her in Malkuth, so you would imagine her crossing, from Chesed, because that's how it's done. But there's still a lot of very unresolved, maybe, let's say, Malkuthi things going
whenever
on there.
Even in like Liber 65, I know that it's common to say that it's a holy guardian angel thing. It's a much more sort of knowledge and conversation kind of thing, but there's a lot of Master of the Temple imagery as well. I think Crowley was at a stage where, he also got Liber 7, which is specifically the birth words of a Master of the Temple, it's described as. So I think there's, and also in Liber 418, which was specifically his formal initiation to the Master of the Temple grade, there's a lot of imagery all over the tree. And I think there's a lot of that sort of comes part and parcel of it. It's not just sort of a clear cut. The way that we conceptualize it as sort of like going from Chesed to Bina, for instance, is simplification. It's basically simplifying it so that we have a clear idea of what we're talking about. But I think that it's like you're dealing with the whole concept as one, and there's a lot of things at play. So it's not as simple as literally just going from one sphere to the next necessarily, So I think it's kind of it might be kind of fun to play with the idea that there's also that. There's a certain level of that going on as well.
Her name isn't Teresa Banks. That's the woman who is kidnapped along with Laura. What's the one from Fire Walk With Me? The one who dies the year earlier. What's her name? Ronette Pulaski.
Oh, okay.
No, Ronette.
No, that's in the train.
Ronette Pulaski disappears with Laura on the train. And so, it is Teresa Banks.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
After Teresa Banks is murdered, Chet Desmond is brought to the private Portland airport and shown the dancing girl in the red dress, right? So red hair, red dress, Thelemites might assume, Scarlet Woman, right? And her name is Lil. And we get the whole key to everything except the blue rose. Her name is Lil, and she's my mother's sister's girl. What's missing? The uncle. Lil has no father. Just like, Adam is made from the clay and life is breathed into him. And then Lilith is made from the clay and life is breathed into her. So they both, have the breath of the father, but they're all their DNA, everything they are, comes from Mother Earth. So for Cole, my mother's sister's girl, there's no uncle, there's no father.
What's fun about that?
Lilith is the fatherless being, and then Eve has no mother. Eve is removed straight from Adam's rib and constructed that way. So
another fun level of that is Lil is part of Lilith, but it's missing the terminal TH, which would be Tav, which would be sort of the earthy element, the clay. On top of that, that's Lil is the name of the first Aether.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So we're starting to climb the abyss into the.
Yeah. That was something after that talk on Lilith that I was conceptualizing, is that it almost seems as if Enochian magic is based around sort of a redemption, so to speak, or a return of Lilith in a purified form or a consecrated form that's freed of all the negative connotations that it's accumulated over aeons. So that actually that corroborates my crazy little theory there, the idea that the first heir is Lil, which is missing that earthy termination.
I was trying to figure out what all the T's were about, because Bobby wears a biker jacket with a red T on the back, and anytime you see an establishing shot of the Double R Diner, it's called the something something Mart. And that T is a great big Christian cross as well, very prominent T. So I was wondering what all those T's were about, and it's maybe, and these are all things that are key players in Laura's story of progressing toward, she's at the diner and she's supposed to go to deliver the Meals on Wheels when she realizes she needs to go home and protect her diary. And Bobby is like obviously bad news. So all these like problems are marked with a cross.
And one of the ways that Crowley talks about the Tav is that it or the T or the cross is that it's emblematic of the phallus.
Yeah. Crazy good.
Fun.
So yeah, if it's the first Aether, this sort of dance of Lil's little dance is the beginning of Laura's progress, up or down through the Aethers to get to the abyss that we see her in at the end of Fire Walk with Me. Yeah, we're starting to establish this idea that Laura is Lilith. Why does she need to be Lilith? Why does she need to be special? I don't want to say too much about that, but and people are offended by this idea that Laura is somehow special. Margaret Lanterman saying like Laura is the one, when the nice thing about Twin Peaks, or at least one of the nice things about it, is that an ordinary girl is grieved for in the way an ordinary girl would be grieved for, like the town comes together to feel sad for 30 episodes instead of just the murder of the week, So the idea that Laura should be special, for a lot of people, that takes away that's weird to me, because she's the homecoming queen, so she's special even if you try to take away that specialness. Right.
She's, would they have mourned one of the other girls as deeply?
And the weird thing is that does run at Pulaski Cross state lines? Is that what happens?
Oh.
Because when she crosses that bridge, that's the flag for Cooper to come. So he's there to investigate Renette's assault, and it's only because Laura is like tied up in the same package that he gets to divert, to obsess over Laura's murder. And then we never see Ronette Pulaski again, like maybe twice more, right?
Yeah.
So she's
a MacGuffin in a sense.
The whole mill closes down to mourn her, and nobody wants it to. There's that big argument between Catherine and Josie. But anyway, so why does
catalyst is a better term than MacGuffin? Oh, what, you were saying something?
Why does Laura need to be special? Well, there's this progress from 0 to 60 for Bob that we see in the first series, where like he sort of begins as an incubus spirit, kind of coming to Laura in her dreams. Maybe there's some idea that he's one of her father's friends, but Bob starts as this small thing that's just fixated on Laura, and then over the course of the series gets bigger and bigger and bigger until he's a major problem for the whole town of Twin Peaks. And he kills 2 people in 18 years, let's say,
Pulaski?
Not Ronette Pulaski, Teresa Banks, and then Laura. He kills 2 people in 18 years. Mind you, that's 1 year and then the next year, but still. And then within a week, he's then murdered Maddie, then murdered Madeline, and is about ready to beat Cooper to death. Cooper goes to the back of the thing to look at the golf clubs, and he's just like, "Is this the moment?" So when Laura
and he tried to strangle somebody in the bed, right? Was it?
He appears at Josie's spontaneous death too.
He gets really active, basically.
Yeah, so there's some way in which having Laura in Bob's life focused all of his being on just her. And then when she dies, his energies get turned out to the whole community. So it's like her presence in the community is protecting the community from Bob and keeping people safe for like 18 years. Yeah. And then when she finally dies, the bad news is unleashed.
Interesting.
But they're only supposed to be out there for 25 years, right? So like she's kept him on a leash for most of his existence. So like good for her. Otherwise, maybe things could have gone very badly. We don't know. But what is for all intents and purposes, what seems to be like a sex demon who's the going to be the best foil for this sex demon thing. It's going to be a mythological figure whose superpower is saying no. Lilith gets thrown out of the garden because she refused to take the submissive role during sex. So we know she's strong, she's confident, she can stand up to a dude and say no. And Laura's hypersexual. She's all over the place doing sex, but her power in the end of saying no to Bob. He says, "I want to taste through your mouth." She puts on the ring. This is the question about the ring. Why doesn't Cooper want her to take the ring? Cooper wants to keep her alive. He's investigating the murder, so if he can stop her from being murdered, then he's done his job. But after she puts on the ring, Bob's cry is, "Don't make me do this." He doesn't actually want to kill her, but "I'm going to be you or kill you, like I promised." And so the ring stops her from being possessed. Yeah. And so once he realizes she has the ring, he can't possess her. She's had the courage to say no.
That's fun too, because it makes sense out of
tortured to death.
It makes sense out of her saying no to James on that last, that last opportunity when they're spending the night together, and she's kind of, "You don't really know me," kind of thing. "I'm not who you think I am," and that sort of thing. So, and she says no to him and runs off into the woods, and then she's off for her last hurrah.
Well, I think one of the things I noticed this time is just how good everything is. I think the reason I'm sort of at angles with David Lynch sometimes is that he directs so fast. And he likes accidents. So if someone's reading is a little bit wooden, or if the actors aren't really listening to each other, or somebody's cadence goes off, or somebody forgets a line, David's inclination is to use the take anyway. If the light is right, if the smile was cute, if something else about it is attractive, but the text is angular, even if the line readings sucked, if there's something he likes about the picture or something, and then we figure out later on why the line readings sucked. Maybe the character has an ulterior motive, and so that they were wooden in that scene because they're lying. But like Bobby is a person who I find who I have sometimes found to be very melodramatic. Laura is a person who I sometimes find to be very melodramatic. Things seem out of proportion and over the top and forced, and emotions aren't necessarily coming naturally.
Well, that character of Lil, that's like the most ridiculous, thing to actually buy and to actually happen.
Sure. But No, that's like you're saying with Bobby. Like that scene is one where her anger at him seems unbelievable.
I was
like,
thinking
why
of the
is
one
she
with
freaking
James,
out?
not Bobby.
Sorry,
but,
the one with James, where her anger at him seems like kind of unbelievable, except that she says he might try to kill you. And then she thinks about it, and then her whole demeanor changes, and she starts acting totally insane.
Yeah.
She's putting on an act to alienate him, so he'll go away and out of danger. Like she's trying to protect him. And Dana Ashbrook, who plays Bobby,
You mean James?
well, this is
Oh, this is going on to the
other
Bobby
one
thing,
who I also find to be a little bit
I
melodramatic.
thought you were really committed to the mistake.
He's running around being absolutely disproportionately abusive to everyone he meets. His dad is not the worst dad in the world. I mean, maybe a little bit wooden, but he's acting out so radically. But not only has his girlfriend just died, but he also murdered somebody. Like there's that scene with Jacoby where like dad's like, he's more difficult to talk to. He stays in his room all the time. I can't approach him. And then it's Bobby's turn to talk, and he looks Jacoby dead in the eyes and says, "Have you ever killed anyone?" And it's not because he's trying to be provocative. It's because that's what's on his mind. He's looking for a human connection. It's like, okay, you're supposed to help me. Do you understand what I'm going through? And so all of these things that seem frantic and melodramatic, if you just, when watching the story with Fire Walk With Me first, and then going into the first season, shows how these things are earned and motivated in a way that you don't understand necessarily if you watch them in the prescribed order.
Could you give me that line reading again? Starting back from when you were referring to Bobby in the first. No, never mind. Okay, we'll just keep it.
So that's why I think it's important that, or not important, but part of it that like Laura Palmer is Lilith, because somehow that allows her to control Bob and and keep things from getting totally out of hand.
Yeah, that's really, it's fun delving into this and sort of putting these different things together with it. But
any other symbols that kind of jumped out for you?
Let's see. I almost feel like when they're in the diner towards the beginning with Chris Isaak and Kiefer Sutherland.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, which is weird that he's... it's so weird to have him play second banana to pretty much anyone, much less a musician who's not an actor. But it's
what a dork. What an unattractive dork Kiefer Sutherland is.
Yeah, and Chris Isaac's going to play the cool, savvy, seasoned FBI guy. What the hell was I saying? Yeah, when they're at the diner, they're talking to the locals about what they're in for and that sort of thing. Was there anything that came out of that was I'm drawing a blank on the exact way it played out, but I feel like there's probably some stuff in there that is worth taking a look at, or in the autopsy.
Oh, so in the autopsy, we get this weird close-up of Teresa's teeth. Like the first thing we see about Teresa is her dead teeth, which that's Shin. That's the no, it's not the universe. It's
the Aeon in the Book of Thoth, but the final judgment in the traditional decks.
Yeah,
and it's so Shin is fire as well, or spirit.
And so there's a way in which there's kind of this Aeon ending thing, right? This cataclysm, this rolling over into a new age somehow. We see, I have notes about it, but I'm not going to overly refer to my notes. But there's moments when we see dead girls' teeth emphasized, or when we come from inside a mouth to look at things in the teeth. And it's a bit weird. There, also in the diner scene, are you talking about that little girl, the one who got murdered, and then that's repeated twice? There's lots of spooky stuff going on in there. It doesn't immediately jump out to me how that's Thelemic. Oh, maybe something about the time. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Could you give us another line reading of that? Maybe like starting from where you were referring to Bobby.
Just go all the way back to Bobby. So then if Laura is Lilith, the next question is, is, well, okay, are we building a whole metaphor thing here? Like, who's Adam? Who's who are some of the other characters, right? Like who's going to be Eve? And after Laura dies, season 1, all of the female characters in the story slowly transform into Laura. Audrey tries to get the job Laura used to have at the perfume counter, and then also at One-Eyed Jack's. Maddie shows up, played by the same actress as Laura.
Josie turns into a knob.
Josie obviously turns into a knob, which is Laura-like, because Laura's a huge knob. And she kept her secret tapes to Dr. Jacoby under the bed knob.
Yeah, that's not going anywhere.
That's perfect. Laura Flynn Boyle, who plays, what's her name?
Other.
She ends up wearing Laura's glasses around and starts smoking.
She plays Mike Myers' girlfriend on Wayne's World.
That's it. That's the one.
Ex-girlfriend.
Laura Flynn Boyle, who plays Donna.
Donna.
Starts smoking and wearing the glasses. Dr. Jacoby. Nadine Hurley becomes a high school student. And, sort of trying to fill, there's an empty table in senior year, so maybe I'll go sit there so that the table's not empty. And there's one more that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But
secretary at the police station. I'm not good with names. I never retain names.
Everybody's struggling to become Laura Palmer, process their grief by becoming Laura Palmer. So who's going to be Eve? And of course, it ends up being the person who truly takes Laura's place is Maddie Ferguson. And so it ends up not being a great thing to be Eve. But never mind. There you go. And only in the pilot episode, it never comes up again. But Mike and Bobby call each other Bopper and Snake.
Whoops, lost that thread.
And so there was a way in which Snake was, as like one of these gross drug dealing teens, was supposed to be getting the knowledge of good and evil via cocaine to Laura to Laura Palmer to precipitate her fall. There was supposed to be that idea there too, and Bopper by episode 6, I guess it is, when he's talking to Jacoby, even though he's like portrayed as kind of a little shit the whole time, he's revealed to be a victim as well, because Laura was dating him because she thought he could get her drugs, so he becomes a drug dealer to satisfy her, and so this murder that he's trying to come to terms with through the whole series was really a consequence of his drug dealing, which was a consequence of his relationship with Laura. And so I'm not trying to say Laura is a bad influence, even though maybe she clearly is, but it was because of his relationship with Mike, who could get the drugs, that Bobby ended up in this position in the first.
Michael,
so
you
Mike
crazy Canadian! I think you're onto something.
Mike is the snake. Yeah. So there is there's two Gardens of Eden. There's Nora's Diner, which is the Garden of Eden, where everything's perfect and lovely and people, have sort of a nice time.
Until the ex-husband gets out of jail.
And then there's One-Eyed Jack's, which is like this sinister sort of...
Post-fall?
It's the sinister reflection of Nora's Diner. And actually, I should say here, tangentially, when I was in high school, so around the same time this show was airing for the first time, a friend of mine was doing a class in film theory, and she came to me and she said, like, everything's dicks. It's all just dicks. You're doing film theory correctly if you go through the movie and you identify dick. And if you can just list all the dicks you saw in the movie, then you're winning at film theory. And so, like, this interpretation of film theory, if it's being taught in a high school class, I imagine is dominant in the mid-90s. And filmmakers would all be aware of this. And everything in Twin Peaks is a vagina. There's fish everywhere. There's cherry pies. There's donuts. Pete Martell, who's sort of like the most sort of transparent, open-hearted, genuine character, is drinking fucking milk all the time.
Things are different in Twin Peaks, and that's the way we like it.
The girls who go to One-Eyed Jack's are given like a little glass totem of a unicorn, which the guy explicitly says, this is a symbol of purity. And so he gives it to these girls who are going off to become prostitutes so that even as they're doing prostitution, they can retain their virginity, which is a Thelemic conception. You retain virginity, you retain purity, you retain chastity. That's what we call it. We call it chastity, even through sex, by devoting it to some sort of divine image, right? By keeping the whole
you
thing
have
pure.
thought about this a lot.
And so there's this, sorry. And so they're all given these unicorns to preserve their purity, just like Nora can give her cherry pie to anyone at the diner who's willing to pay $5 for
fine cherry
it.
pie you got here in Twin Peaks.
And it stays a cherry pie. Like she never loses her virginity by serving the pies. So there's this maiden whore thing going on at both the diner and One-Eyed Jack's, and that's sort of like the Adenic,
It's too bad the coffee,
birthplace of human growth.
the damn fine coffee, didn't conjure up Pam Grier in some way.
Is that a celebrity crush from the period?
Oh, for absolute fucking right. Jackie Brown is like top tier movie.
Yeah. Instead, you get what's her name from 90210, or no, not 90210. Who do we end up getting to replace Audrey in season 2?
I forget.
What's her name? She's someone.
I only got like
someone
halfway
famous.
through season 2, and then is it Audrey, or you're thinking of?
Well, they're supposed to do this love story between Cooper and Audrey.
Oh yeah, and it ended up being
and then Cooper didn't want to do it because Audrey's too young.
Yeah, so they got this
so
other
they
guy.
brought in a nun, a suicidal nun, because that would be less. Oh, that's more equitable, less coercive. It's less coercive for me to take the virginity of a suicidal nun than it is for me to take up with a.
Well, they had the bad guy from
student.
Titanic. What's his name? He came in and became the love interest for
Audrey, and then.
He's also the bad guy in Demon Knight, which is an underrated horror film, just FYI.
Annie Blackburn is played by Heather Graham.
Oh, Heather Graham.
Yeah.
I just remember her being terrible in the second Austin Powers movie.
I'm sorry to hear that. One of the things that kind of irks people about Twin Peaks is that it was canceled so early. And they will complain that it was like canceled on a cliffhanger. Mm-hmm. That we see Cooper as Bob, and then the show shuts down, and like, oh, what was going to happen next? And people say, or I think David Lynch or Mark Frost, I can't remember which, will say that like Twin Peaks was a tragedy. Mm-hmm.
We didn't say we're going to spoil the second season, by the way.
So they think maybe it's the tragedy of Laura Palmer because it's like her tragic death, and there are ways in which that's tragic.
Just the way you phrase that sounds hilarious, because it's kind of like, yes, you could say that her death was, in a way, a tragedy.
Well, I'm trying to differentiate between tragedy and pithy.
Okay.
Like usually, if
she had a quick death that wasn't very elaborated upon.
If a high school student dies in a traffic accident, the newspapers will say like, oh, what a tragic accident. But it isn't tragic. The fact that they had potential and never did anything, they had so much potential, they had their whole lives in front of them. That's precisely what makes it not tragic. It's pathetic. We feel sympathy.
Oh, pathetic. Okay.
We feel sympathy. It breaks our hearts.
As in pathos, incidentally, for people who aren't used to the use of the term pathetic in that way. It's pathetic. They could have done better.
Yeah, so we feel sympathy for this person, so it's pathetic.
We feel sympathy because feel passion along with them.
But it's not tragic because it's not a high school student is not a noble person, and they didn't die because of some tragic flaw. Like, it wasn't a destiny issue. And so for a high school girl to be like murdered by her dad, spoiler alert. For a high school girl to be murdered by her dad is pathetic unless you want to start doing a bunch of victim blaming. Like, it's not her tragic flaw that her dad killed her, you know? But so I'm hesitant to call it tragic, because that blames Laura for her own death. But the fact that she had the nobility to not be possessed by Bob, to put on the ring and sort of like maintain her being, and then that confidence killed her, that willingness to stay herself. That's the way in which it becomes a tragedy. But it is a little bit like, well, if she'd made different choices, she'd still be alive. So it lets the Bob entity off the hook a little bit. It sort of blames her decisions for her death. And you have to do that in order to call it a tragedy and not simply pathetic. But it's
well, there's a way in which your reading of it can also be read as a self-sacrifice thing, which I dislike, just because, it may be a justifiable self-sacrifice in some reading of this. You could probably make that case, but I usually agree with Crowley in that the idea of self-sacrifice is very self-indulgent, generally speaking. There's a movie called The Ninth Configuration that was written and directed by William Peter Blatty, who did The Exorcist. He wrote The Exorcist and he directed Exorcist 3. Exorcist 3 is one of my favorite movies. I got to revisit The Ninth Configuration, but I just didn't really like it when I ended up seeing it. And part of the thing that really bothered me was the hokey way in which it used self-sacrifice as this ultimate lesson in it, which makes sense from coming from William Peter Blatty, because of the fact that he wrote The Exorcist in defense of Catholicism and spirituality in the face of, people being dismissive of the church and that sort of thing. But it's just so, the idea of self-sacrifice as portrayed that way is such a phony, fraudulent, sort of idea.
Right.
But in this case, you could argue that she's making a self-sacrifice by sacrificing herself in order to stop Bob. It doesn't stop Bob.
Yeah, it just slows him down for a little while.
Yeah.
But I don't think she puts herself in this position. That's something we need to talk about later, though. But so the tragedy is Cooper's. And Cooper's the person that shows up with a complicated past, like a woman in his deep past who, I think in season 1 he says, who showed me what love is and taught me what it costs, or something like that. And then the idea that he was...
And I tried to protect her, but instead I ended up making sure that she got hurt. Oh, wait, no, that's Chinatown, sorry.
Yeah. So Cooper's living his own little Chinatown here in Twin Peaks. And so the relationship with Audrey is supposed to sort of foreshadow he's willing to pick up with a high school student. And then when he says, I don't want to do that, I think it's amoral. It's against Cooper's character. They say, oh, perfect. That's even better. We can show you as morally conflicted about it, and so we don't have to hit the audience on the head with a hammer.
Great thinking, Coop.
And so he says to Audrey, like what I want and what I need are two different things. My oath to the badge means I have to uphold a certain standard. And
you almost said vag, and I thought it was going to be another.
my oath to the badge. Yeah, everything in Twin Peaks is a vagina. Even the badges are vaginas.
Yeah.
My oath to the badge is a big part of the reason that we can't be together. Also, what it seems to me you need right now is a friend. Like, and in one way, and he never says, like, she isn't sexy and I wouldn't love to fuck a teenager.
Thank you, Michael.
But in one way, maybe he's letting her down easy, right? Like he can't make her feel undesirable when she's already so fragile.
She put herself on the line and everything.
But in another way, like it is also just honestly how he feels about her, right? Like there's an obvious attraction. So, so this is opening him up as being someone who is morally susceptible to Bob's influence. Also, there's that great scene in the pilot where he's interviewing Bobby, and Bobby gets really upset, and Cooper's instinct is to yell back. Bobby starts yelling, Cooper starts yelling, and it's a David Lynch intervention where he says, look, no, if he goes up, you go down. Relax and smile. He says, Bobby, here's how it works.
Yeah.
We ask
Pull
the
out
questions.
the old Ronald Reagan.
And you answer the questions that we ask.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking sadistic once you know where he's headed with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it didn't end on a cliffhanger. That was an ending. Cooper is destroyed. And then, of course, it ends up being a cliffhanger, and we see Cooper again in the future.
The gum did come back in style.
Yeah, which I have no idea what that means. But it's been the whole point since the beginning is to get Cooper and Bob together. Also, it's fucking astounding. Just not from a Thelemic perspective, but just as an aside, it's fucking astounding to me that Leland. Again, spoiler alert. So if you haven't stopped listening by now, it's your own fault. It's astounding to me that Leland didn't know he was the murderer, because there's clues to that right up in the very first moments too. Mr. and Mrs. Palmer are on the phone talking to each other, wondering what's happened to Laura. A policeman comes in and takes his hat off. That means we found your daughter. It's bad news. My thought as a parent goes to, fuck, she's been in a car accident. She's in the hospital. It's not looking good. That's not where his head goes. He goes, he says, he starts screaming, and then Sarah Palmer starts screaming, and they both know she's dead. And it's actually Leland that says it first, my daughter is dead. And so not only did Leland know, Laura knew. And so it's like, how did you know without being told? Like immediately he's the murderer.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick up on it. There's something in episode 6 with a number 4. Something important happens at 4:00. The poker chip. When they're are they taking apart Leo Johnson? They're taking apart the log cabin. They found the place not where she was murdered, but where she was raped at the party beforehand. And they find the mynah bird, Waldo, and they find the cuckoo clock, and the cuckoo clock goes off and it's broken. So Cooper looks in and finds the poker chip that was in Laura's stomach, and the cuckoo clock says it's 4:00. And if you go to Liber D, the very first entry on the list for the number 4 is Aleph Beth Aleph Abba, which is father. So,
interesting.
So there's stuff pointing at father from very, very early on, from the pilot, and then also episode 6 and different places. But
what's with the white horse?
The white horse. So everyone assumes that the white horse is death, and that Sarah Palmer is being visited by
the pale horse.
by the pale horse, and that whenever we see that, maybe it's connected to Bob or something as a murdering spirit. But pale in the
English language,
but pale in the Revelation points at a word in Greek that means green. Death doesn't ride a white horse. Jesus rides a white horse.
The Morning Star.
The first horseman comes out on a white horse, and then later on, the white horse is called something like Faithful and True. And there's this whole correlation that tells you all of the symbols that have been all through Revelation. You know, the reaper, the winepress, the true and faithful horseman, the guy covered in blood with the sword of his mouth. It says these have all been the same thing. They've all been Jesus. So Jesus is one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. He's the one on the white horse that goes out conquering and to conquer. So somehow that white horse, and this is where I was maybe sort of tending towards a sort of more Nietzschean reading sometimes, because the white horse seems to be associated with the Black Lodge stuff, with the Bob stuff, and it's Jesus. And so like maybe it's Laura's, even though Laura's not a submissive person, she's very outgoing and aggressive and, you know, power, but maybe it's her like Christian willingness to endure, you know, to that partly leads to her death, or Grace Zabriskie, her Christian willingness to sort of just take it on the chin and do her best and suffer, and that suffering will eventually lead to redemption, like you're saying, the martyrdom complex that prolongs everyone's misery for so long. So the white horse has to be Jesus. Part of me once thought that Bob was Jesus, which is why he looks the way that he does, but I don't think that's sustainable. But there's but actually, there's a way in which we can talk about that later, the question of whether or not Bob might be Jesus. It's a little bit tangential, but or like a little bit of a long way around, but I don't know what it does for the narrative if Bob is Jesus.
I wonder if there's a Church of Bob. Oh, wait, there is a Church of Bob.
And so one of the important clues, if Laura is Lilith, and I said like shown with owl feet sometimes and crossed with owl wings and stuff like that, if she's a Lilith spirit.
And the owls are not what they seem.
Yeah, the owls are not what they seem. They seem like Bob. We see Bob with an owl face on at some point, right? They seem like maybe messengers of the dead. Like maybe they're like in Brandon Lee's The Crow, where the crow carries the spirits to the next life or something like that. So maybe they seem like that. They show up to scare you whenever the characters find an important clue. Whenever we discover something new about the mystery of Laura Palmer, we see scary owls. So whatever the owls represent has to be someone who's invested in us solving this mystery, which is another clue that it might be Bob. But I definitely think it's Laura, because she's the Lilith spirit. She's the one with the owl totems, who is an owl. And then like when James and Donna find that the heart necklace isn't there, and then they kiss they bury the heart necklace and then they kiss for the first time. The owl watches them bury the heart necklace, but then when they kiss, you can hear the owl like more quietly, like it's flying away. Like I approve of this, but I don't want to watch it. So like somehow the owl's like offended by seeing her best friend and her boyfriend making out. So anyway, I definitely that's the answer to that one kind of. That's why the owls are always there when things are happening, is because Laura's monitoring the investigation of her own murder.
I'm thinking of the ring and the emblem on it, and for some reason I've always had that in the back of my head as being like a sort of emblem of an owl for some reason.
People call it the owl ring. That's one of the sort of Reddit
Maybe that's where
things,
that came from, yeah.
It isn't, but it's similar to a glyph that they find at a place called Owl Cave later on. So yeah, it's all owls all the way down. Margaret's log tells them what it saw the night Laura was murdered. And
Margaret is the log lady, just in case anybody thinks there's more than one out there.
There's not more than one log, yeah. So the log said the owls were screaming and panicking and freaking out, and it was all very dangerous because the owls are dangerous. And then Laura died, and then the owls were quiet. Because they're all dead, because Laura's the owls. Episode 3, Dale has a dream. And then he wakes up from the dream, And he says, meet me 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I know who killed Laura Palmer. Yes, it can wait till morning. Why does it have to wait till morning?
Yeah. And then he promptly forgets.
Then he promptly forgets. Well, it has to wait till morning because at sunrise, we shed new light on the case at sunrise. It's that's when the information needs to be shared. 7 o'clock is the lover's card, which for Crowley, he says in primordial times, this was called the Brothers, and it was the story of Cain and Abel, Romulus and Remus, and of the creation of the universe.
In the first shedding of blood and sacrifice.
And he's pointing at what I've been on about before with Manos and Yimo and the first priest killing the first king and using the body to create all of creation. And then now we sacrifice bulls, at least from the perspective of the hearers of that story. Now we sacrifice bulls to restore creation, but originally it was a king, the twin brother of the priest, who was sacrificed, and that made everything. And so we have to talk about who killed Laura at 7 o'clock in the hour of the lover's card, because not only was she a passionate lover who lived, 80% of her life oriented around sex and, trying to suppress bad feelings by exploring ecstatic ones, but also her death is the creation of this universe. There would be no TV show if Laura Palmer hadn't been murdered. So she's the sacred sacrifice.
Yeah.
But then he's late. He doesn't actually get down there till 7:15. And 15 is what? 15 is
Well, if it's in the Roman numerals, it's the devil card.
It's the devil, yeah. So that's how he forgets.
Interesting.
And so the question is, why? We've got these sort of biblical symbols. We've got these numerological symbols. We've got these tarot card symbols, including like the number 6 telephone pole in Fire Walk With Me, which points us at Tefereth, the suite 315, which is where Cooper is staying, which sums to 9, and 9s all over the place, numbers that reduce to 9 all over the place in Fire Walk With Me and through the pilot of Twin Peaks. The house number, Laura Palmer's street address is 708, which is perdition, which is not the same thing as hell, but it's the idea of somebody being tortured forever because of moral choices they've made. So Laura Palmer is in a state of perdition, and it sort of is the state of tragedy, right? Like you have this comportment towards suffering somehow. But so why is the narrative permeable to all these occult tools? What value does that give us? And the answer is that it tells us it gives us a clue to what the story is really about. The story is not about an FBI agent investigating a murder. The story is about a magician trying to pursue some significant attainment. I think probably the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. And I think Cooper is an FBI agent, but because the X-Files came out so soon after this, everyone assumes the Blue Rose cases are like the X-Files. But I think that they aren't. I think the Blue Rose Task Force is an occult organization that is formed within the FBI, and these people are primarily motivated by things like dream interpretation, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, yoga. All of the things we see as Cooper's quirks are actually the primary things motivating him. And he goes to Twin Peaks to investigate the murder of Laura Palmer. He's very excited because this is one of Gordon's Blue Rose cases, and because it seems to be the same serial killer from before. And very, very quickly, he realizes that he's fallen ass backwards into like something that's going to be not just significant to his career, but personally significant to him. And so he becomes hyper aware. He's journaling all the time. He's asking all these questions about different trees and animals and things that he sees around him because he wants to know what the symbol set is for his encounter with his HGA. And we've talked before in Liber Samic, it talks about how there's sort of an ego death that happens when you encounter your HGA. Of course, Cooper dies at the end of season 1, and then we might say he dies again at the end of season 2, although that's more ambiguous. But it's not that it's ending on a cliffhanger, it's that it's killing him again and again and again because it wants, in case they don't get their series renewed, because it has to end with him confronting his HGA so that it's a tragedy. And so that there's the fulfillment of that promise. And so what are some evidences for that? All the number 9s around, especially the number 9 in his hotel room number, because that gives that's him in Yesod approaching Tefereth along the path of Samech. There's the number 6 telephone pole everywhere, which tells us that the goal is Tefereth, even though Laura's crossing the abyss and going to the third Sephiroth. Cooper is heading up to Tefereth. The episode 7 where Cooper gets shot, everything, the color palette changes and everything becomes red, pink, gold, and yellow, especially pink. And so Tefereth, I think the king scale is salmon, gold for queen, rose for emperor, and then maybe yellow for empress or something like that. But it's yellow, pink. And like even when another character who dies in the episode and then wakes up changed is, I keep wanting to call her Margaret Lanterman, but it's not her. It's the Nadine. Nadine Hurley kills herself with the pills and stuff, and she's wearing a pink dress. There's if you watch carefully, there's all these colors of Tefereth leading up to Cooper's execution and then the pilot of season 2, he meets the giant. He has this dream where he gets a whole bunch more clues. He says, "I will tell you 3 things," and then he tells him 3 more things. And so it ends up being 6 things again for Tefereth.
That kind of seems to imply that, like, at the end of season 2, that's more of like his approaching the abyss and maybe failing.
There's a way in which you could say that, but I think he's still on the road to Tefereth all the way through to the end of season 2. They call the monster that Cooper meets in the Red Room, they call it the doppelganger, the dweller on the threshold. And I think, now this is a little bit ambiguous in some of the literature, but I think that the Demon Sea is not the dweller on the threshold. I think the dweller on the threshold is in the Vale of Paraketh before you cross to Tefereth. So I think it's all HGA stuff. But I'm willing to be wrong about that.
Well, I guess one way I could spin that, because that makes total sense what you're saying. One way I could quickly spin it is like, well, maybe the references to the dweller on the threshold are alluding to the fact that even his HGA attainment at the end, going into season 2, was actually with the dweller on the threshold, and then later on, that's why he fails crossing the abyss. But
so I might just ask who we think Cooper's HGA is. Like, could it be the giant? Could it be, you might not know this name, but it doesn't spoil anything for me to just say, could it be the fireman? Could it be Laura herself, who guides him to this significant moment by being there? And if we believe that Laura is a saint, if she's all the way up there in the supernal triad, having crossed the abyss herself, then maybe she could be returning as an angel to guide Cooper.
Which is one perspective I kind of like.
Or is there someone else who's
maybe Wyndham Earl?
Yeah, maybe Wyndham Earl is could be Cooper's HGA, although as a living person, that's dubious. Maybe
there's a lot of problems with it, frankly. But there's a lot of problems with that whole Wyndham Earl idea.
A brilliant idea, poorly executed.
Yeah. It's almost like as if Andy and what's her face, had a third element come in, and Andy and this third element had to wrestle with each other to be the better father for this child that has nothing to do with anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So people have observed that.
And where the hell did James go? Like, what was that whole thing with him going out of town and hitching up with that woman and fixing her car and banging her? And then where did that go?
Yeah, you wish there had been more of that, do you?
Yeah, I wanted to learn more about, that non-Twin Peaks thing.
Well, you'll get plenty more non-Twin Peaks things. It's coming in the future. If you're anxious to get out of Twin Peaks in your Twin Peaks, I have a brilliant surprise for you.
Wonderful.
But
also, what's with David Bowie?
Yeah, so the David Bowie thing is great, but we should talk about it later.
Okay. What's with that thing you were about to say when I annoyed you with various other distractions?
I'm just trying to decide how much I need to defend this idea that Cooper is primarily motivated by magical attainment rather than solving crimes, and that maybe at best they're mutual interests, but as a professional person, he's an FBI agent and he takes that job seriously. But his humanity is tied up in this, in these sort of psycho-spiritual pursuits. And in some of the peripheral literature, you see this fleshed out, especially by Mark Frost, where he talks about Major Briggs as a religious spiritual teacher for Cooper. He talks about Cole as a spiritual guide for Cooper. Like you do see where some of this magical instruction happens off camera between the cracks, but even on camera. After he gets shot, the thing he says to Diane is, "I'm treating the pain with 20 extra minutes of yogic discipline." There's just so much. I mean, he does have investigative skills. He's a crack shot. He can shoot his gun, and he can do an interrogation. But people notice that he spends a lot of his time flirting with Annie Blackburn. A lot of his time, not at work. After a certain point. Wyndham Earle is out there doing serial killing, and Dale is only interested in
sampling the local cherry pie.
Sure. But it's because of his attitude as a spiritual aspirant and his needing to be there and devote more and more time to this HGA operation leading up to the crisis at the.
We're sorry about your daughter, and we know that you're anxious to find the killers and figure out what happened here. But we brought an astrologer.
Yeah, and trust me, I wouldn't mind doing those things either. I think those are appropriate goals. And I will devote all of the time that I have in excess of my, anytime I'm not meditating or flirting with nuns, I will be there.
Well, I'm anxious to find out more about David Bowie and his role in the thing, but I know we'll get there eventually.
There's a few little number things, like Leland standing over the gramophone. He's got a gramophone in his house for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
He stands over the gramophone, and he's sort of like stunned, like he's kind of a little bit catatonic, and then he snaps 2, 3, 1.
Yeah, and
so he snaps 6 times, and the music starts. And the music that starts is Transylvania 65000. So 65,000. So he knocks 6 times, and then Tefereth opens.
Yeah. So 65 being the number of Adonai,
or Libra 65, like we've been talking about, the book of aspiration to the Holy Guardian Angel. Cooper's expertise is NLP. How did you know that we were together? Oh, it's the body language. Handwriting analysis. The slant in your handwriting reveals a romantic nature. Be careful. Dream analysis. Break the code, solve the crime. Yoga. I'm treating the pain with 20 extra minutes of yogic discipline. What he calls Tibetan method. which is wild because a lot of the ideas in later Twin Peaks sort of seem to come from theosophy. Like Wyndham Earle talks about Dugpas, trying to become a Dugpa, which is a black magician motivated by the accumulation of power. And he says it's a Tibetan Buddhist idea, but I don't think it is. I think it's something that Blavatsky dreamed and then started saying was a Tibetan Buddhist idea. Blavatsky gets Tibet at the time Blavatsky's writing is a closed country and nobody knows anything about it at all. But she claims to have all this insight. Maybe she snuck in there and was trained for real, or maybe she just keeps having dreams and pretending whatever nonsense she dreams about is Tibetan Buddhism.
And the nice thing about a shelf life for a human being is that you don't have to be answerable to it after a certain point.
Sure. So there's two versions of Tibetan Buddhism out in the world right now. There's actual Tibetan Buddhism, and
you can pretty much leave it there, and I think the inference is pretty clear.
and Blavatsky's theosophy. So Dale dreaming about Tibet and then coming up with dowsing methods for solving mysteries. There's so much about him that's motivated by this kind of occult and not deep stuff. Like he's not reading necessarily medieval grimoires and stuff, but all of the things that are like popular occultism in the 90s, him and Gordon Cole are all about it. So I think I think the story of Twin Peaks 1 is the story of Cooper's approach to his HGA.
It's too bad they didn't have like several scenes of just cold readings.
Sure. Although he does cold read a couple of people. Later on he says he's a strong sender. He didn't want to be there with Laura Palmer when Palmer when she was doing the sketch because he didn't want to send her the face that he saw in his dream. There's just all sorts of stuff like that.
It's all the stuff you'd expect Dr. Jacoby to be saying. You know?
Right. There's more I want to say, but I think we need to do the return first before I can finish fleshing this out. But you keep coming up with different symbols, and there are things the Thelemic approach explains and things that it doesn't explain. So if you had anything else you wanted to,
I'd love to hear about this. What's the deal with the David Bowie thing?
So the David Bowie thing.
He comes onto the 7th floor, I think.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. So this again, there's Netzach imagery all through Fire Walk with Me. The FBI office is on the 7th floor. Thanks for reminding me. So what are they doing there? They're doing dream interpretation. Gordon, I was worried about today because of a dream that I had. And then they're trying to predict the future. They're doing like psychic testing. It's like, I think the next, I think I know who the next victim of the killer is going to be. And Albert says, well, let's test it for the record. Tell me some things about this victim that you think you know. And so... I
love that Albert and Leland Palmer are both like from RoboCop as well.
I haven't seen RoboCop in so long. I should check it out. But so they're all there on the 7th floor, which is Netzach, which is the grade of the Zealoter. And so you would move...
the Netzach's not the grade of the
Zealoter. Not the grade of the... go ahead.
I'm actually blanking too.
Zealoter, Theoricus, and then...
God damn it. Yeah, I'm just drawing a blank.
It's the last of the elemental grades before you come back down into Yesod. Practicus. The last of the elemental grades before you come back down into Yesod to cross the abyss. So they're Cooper's there ready to take the next step. And then Philip Jeffries comes in and starts saying a lot of things that don't really make any sense. like, who do you think that is there? And we're not going to talk about Judy at all. And
there's that whole thing with the camera, the surveillance camera. It's
That
fun,
both
actually,
catch-
incidentally, just before I forget to mention it, the fact that Cooper's specifically in the Netsack place when the whole first series is going to be him approaching his holy guardian angel.
yeah, that's
sort
what
of
I
thing.
was trying to get at. But
There's that surveillance camera thing where he keeps stepping out into it and then stepping back to check the monitor, stepping out, and then David Bowie's character comes out from behind him when he's looking at the monitor and seeing himself still plastered onto the image.
yeah, he had disappeared, and then he is both there and not there. And in the missing pieces, it shows him disappearing in this hotel down in Brazil somewhere, maybe. He leaves a package for Judy and then vanishes. And then he's never heard from again until this thing at the FBI office. And aside from some of the numbers, it doesn't have a specific Thelemic interpretation, but the question of where Philip Jeffries is might have a Thelemic answer. And again, it's something we can deal with later, probably.
And just to get even more obscure, it then motivates a cutaway to the aforementioned earlier in the script, the dream that takes place in the apartment above a convenience store or gas station.
So there's all that dilapidated rose printed wallpaper, right? More things that point to Ferrith, the roses, both red and pink. Also,
Formica table.
This is a Formica table. Green is its color. Again, more Netsack stuff.
Formica's traditionally Netsack.
The green. But the Formica being artificial, right? Like just like a plastic. This is a plastic table, but green is its color. So like
Plastic fantastic, no less.
So maybe the question of, is this fake Netsack, the Venusborg Tanasar thing again? The wallpaper is not the same. I checked a lot of times. It's not the same as the rose floral wallpaper. The black rose floral wallpaper is not the same as the black rose floral wallpaper that we see in One-Eyed Jacks. But there are red curtains and black floral wallpaper in both places. And then the reason for the red curtains in the red room is that there are red curtains in Leo's cabin where Laura's raped. So the red drapes from the red room, from the stage at the Roadhouse, from Leo's cabin, and then again from the apartment above the convenience store. There's sort of this bleeding of where the red drapes are all kind of pointing at the same space, and they can be both nice places and not so nice places. And I just can't keep remembering Tanasar, where this guy thinks he's a vassal to the goddess Venus, and it's actually a Lilot vampire who and
Tannhauser.
Thank you. Tanasar.
I think it's actually pronounced Tannhauser.
Tannhauser. I like this place. It is called Tannhauser.
I hate to correct you, but I think it's Tannhauser.
Tannhauser.
Das ist nicht mein Koffer. Mein Koffer ist braun.
There's a few tessellated floors. There's the coffee and white, the coffee and cream colored zigzag floor in the in the red room, and then a more traditional Masonic style tessellated floor with the checkerboard pattern in the diner in Nora's diner, but that's red and white instead of black and white. And that's where, of course, Cooper takes his initiation into the Bookhouse Boys. Hank's domino is super cool because that's 3 plus 3, so that's a 6 as well. And because Hank's being released from prison all around the domino, that's sort of like a death and resurrection for him, like an HGA kind of spiritual and he pretends to have had a spiritual revolution that he hasn't actually had, which might be foreshadowing as well for Cooper being possessed by the Bob spirit instead of, crossing the abyss.
At this juncture, I just want to point out that this whole time you've believed yourself to be sitting on a podcast talking about this stuff, you've been on a street corner ranting about it.
I've been in a white room staring into a mirror with a spotlight coming right down into my face.
I like to gaslight.
What?
I grew up with that gaslighting frog from Bugs Bunny cartoons, and he was always my idol.
Oh yeah. That's a good frog.
It's a good quality frog. Green for Netzach, definitely green. Reptilian, so sort of referring to the back of the head, which is Koth, and that's attributed to the moon. It's the passage through night.
So it's 2 3s, which is 6, but then we see it 3 times in the episode, so that could be 3 3 3, which is Karanzan, or it's 2 3s, which could be 33, which is like a high-ranking Masonic degree. So
I'm sorry, I'm grinning maniacally because there's a cardinal out on the tree branch, and I can't help but like now that I was joking about right? I was joking about all these correspondences and stuff, and yeah, it's actually, is it a blue jay in the actual show intro?
It might be a cardinal. There is a bird that's not a cardinal, but there might be a cardinal too.
But anyway, cardinals are red and black.
Well, the one that people see all the time is the veiled thrush. But I really thought there was a.
It was like blue velvet. There's the robin, of course. That's the thematic bird in that. Not that has anything to do with anything.
I couldn't find anything Kabbalistic about mynah birds.
No.
Huckleberries, I thought maybe. Because they look like blueberries, except they're darker and more tart. So they could be chesed for because they're always given to show generosity, to show what it's like to be a good host at a party, to show kind of benevolence. Because there's like huckleberry muffins and there's huckleberry pie at Nora's place. It's cherry pie sometimes, but then it's huckleberry pie when people are trying to welcome each other. But I also thought that it could be, because they're more tart and they're darker, the other blue thing that it might be is Binah for, the Sephiroth just across the abyss. So there might be something maybe sinister in that hospitality as well or something, but I don't know.
Well, the Twin Peaks is different, and that's the way we like it. But it comes with you might call it a darkness.
Oh yeah. There's something in the woods, probably. Yeah. So that's my rant for now. Anything more on your side you want to say about all that? Or?
I'm just intimidated because I wanted to talk about 2001: A Space Odyssey, and now I'm going to have to really do some proper homework to bring this much madness to the table.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Space Odyssey episode. There are things that I really like about that show. I got to see it at the Cinesphere before the Cinesphere shut down. I joked for years and years and years that I was sad I didn't see the movie before it expired. And then about 4 years ago, I went to the Cinesphere and saw it on a great big square IMAX screen. Not the IMAX that they do now, but the real IMAX. Holy smokes, am I ever glad I waited, because seeing those lava lamps on anything but IMAX would probably not have been as impactful. Like I can't just sit here and watch snow on my dad's TV in the basement for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But in IMAX, holy smokes, that was so cool. Anyway, I'm looking forward to watching it again and to discussing all the mysteries contained therein.
Well, this is really great. This actually turned out really well. We got a lot of material out of this, which was a lot of fun to delve into. So I'd like to thank you for your thoughts on this and giving us the journey into Twin Peaks. And, of course, we'd love to thank our guest, Edward Mason, for joining in as well.
That was fun.
Yeah, Edward, it's nice to see you. Thanks so much.
Okay.
93.
Oh, so if anyone who's not already a Thelemite has stumbled into this and made it 2 hours into the cast, if you want to look up any of the numbers, because I know y'all feel it's very intimidating to look up numbers. You want Aleister Crowley's 777 and other Kabbalistic articles. 777 is tough to approach your first time, but if you skip to the third article in there, Liber D, there's just a whole bunch of numbers and Hebrew words that are attached to the numbers, and you can get something out of it.
Yeah, and the D is actually a Roman numeral for 500, but it's also commonly called Sefer Sephiroth.
Right. So if you want to look up numbers, there's one place you can look up numbers.
All right. Well, thanks very much for helping me to inaugurate this series, which we are calling Spinning Stories, where we take...
Yeah, we're going to take different pieces of popular media and try to spin Thelemic interpretations out of them, so that it's
a way to dishonor the dead.
Instead of manufacturing our own propaganda, we're going to pretend that other people have already been doing it for years.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like when the Mormons try to posthumously convert people.
Yeah. Yeah, just like or like when Crowley insisted that Nietzsche, who despised everything religious, was a Gnostic saint.
Yeah. May peace be granted upon him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Michael. I appreciate
Hey,
this.
it's a pleasure to see you and Edward again. We'll do it again in a month.
Sounds good.
93.
See you guys then. 93.
Oh, happy equinox! Happy equinox!
Happy equinox! Oh, and happy birth of Crowley.
Oh, it's not equinox. It'll be October by the time we drop this. So yeah, it's the
Happy inauguration of Scorpio
it's
season.
Crowley Mass.
Yeah.
So anyway, great work, Darren. Thanks so much.
Yeah, great work on your part. You did a wonderful job on all your obsessive craziness.
It actually is just what I think about it, and I've seen it probably 12 times. And watching it again, I was able to just write down some numbers and stuff. But I've been
No, it was actually really cool.
It wasn't research just for this. It was my whole life.
Thanks for listening. Find Toronto Thelema online. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and help us grow. And join us again in the darkly splendid abodes.
Yeah, any last minute requests?
Uh,
A cigarette and a shot of brandy?
oh, well, if it's available.
Well, it's not, but I just... I thought I'd offer. It was only polite to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'd love one.
I'm afraid we're out.